Have you ever come across this clip? It doesn't seem to be particularly popular in the paranormal community, perhaps because it's not visually striking, but something about it intrigued me. I will examine every single aspect of this footage and give you a probabilistic assessment of its legitimacy. Make sure to watch until the end to know if this is a hoax, a prank, or an unknown creature. The original clip is quite long, 6 minutes and 15 seconds to be precise, and I know many of you will stop watching, but I thought it was important, analysis-wise, to present it in its entirety. Here it is.
У меня в сарае какая-то тварюга сидит, непонятная. Вон, в том проеме. Сейчас вот буквально час назад выходил, никого не было. Сейчас вот вышел, и шумит кто-то непонятно. Эй! Эй! Сука, тварь ебаная, блядь. Эй! Господи, господи. А ну давай уходи оттуда, бегом. Какая-то... А ну бегом выходи, сарай. Блин. Эй, ты кто? Давай вылазь оттуда. Воу! Ой. Что там гремишь? Эй! Ну, уходи бегом. Он, походу, в сарай выйдет. Сейчас. Стой, сарай, не хочет сбежать. Что? Вот. Нет, тут цена целая. А ну, влазь давай! Что ты там ломаешь? Тварюга какая, а? Ты кто такой вообще? Йоу! Посудина кидается, тварь такая. Эй! Падла такая, а? Тварь, блядь, а. Ты кто? Кто ты такой? Вообще ни хрена не понимаю, что ты там говоришь.
There are several reasons why I find this footage intriguing, especially in relation to the normal procedure I follow in this video analysis. The typical alleged cryptid sighting involves, well, a cryptid, or at least a visible portion of it. The visuals of something apparently outside of the norm, in my experience, leads to a thought process that can be represented by a simple flowchart. Here it is. The first thing I do is try to figure out if what I'm looking at was recorded in camera, so to speak, or if at least part of it was generated by a software. If there's enough evidence of computer-generated imagery, I try to figure out the original purpose of the video. If a piece of footage was created for fiction media, like a TV show or video game for instance, we are dealing with a misrepresentation, which is someone mistakenly sharing the footage as an unknown creature or phenomenon. If the CGI was created to get people to think it is an unknown creature or phenomenon, then of course we're dealing with a hoax. On the other hand, if there's no CGI, we can either be looking at a fabrication aimed at pranking the cameraman or at hoaxing the public, a misidentification, or a genuine unknown creature or phenomenon. There are several unusual things about this clip. Except for a very brief moment, we never get to see the subject, and even in that moment, what we get to see is a poorly illuminated glimpse of a portion of the face. What we actually witness are merely the voice of the alleged creature and the consequences of its actions. The other aspects I'm on the fence about are the length of the clip, which is over 6 minutes, and the setting. Regardless of the exact geographic location, this video was recorded at night and at a very low temperature. The big icicles, the visible exhaled vapor of the person recording, and the frozen snow corroborate this idea. There is no CGI in this footage because, well, there is nothing peculiar to look at, so we can rule out the CGI hoax hypothesis pronto. What we're left with are the three possibilities on the left side of the chart: misidentification, fabrication, or unknown creature. But I have some serious qualms with the fabrication hypothesis. If this were a prank, it would involve someone hiding at night with freezing temperature in a barn or shed outside someone else's house and making noises to draw the attention of the prank's victim. Do you see the problem with that? What if the house owner has a gun? What if they get scared and become violent? And the most illogical thing of all, how did they know that the house owner would record the whole thing? The prank hypothesis makes no sense at all, so I will rule that out as well. As for the practical hoax, what would be the purpose? I can tell from experience that to get attention on YouTube or other social media platforms, you need sensational images, which this clip does not possess. Besides, why producing a hoax with no interesting images at night with freezing temperature and record for 6 minutes straight? I'm very, very skeptical about this thing being a hoax. I think the most plausible theory is that this man had already had contacts with whatever is inside his barn, believed he was dealing with an unknown creature, and went outside one night with the clear purpose of recording this creature and show it to the world. In my preliminary assessment, I will assign a 20% probability to the hoax hypothesis, 60% probability to the misidentification hypothesis, and 20% to the unknown creature hypothesis. All the background info I could find about this footage is that the man recording speaks Russian and that he basically says, "Get out, you can't stay here," several times. It doesn't necessarily mean it was recorded in Russia. There is a good chance that it was, but you know what, it's not that relevant. The only useful thing would be for a Russian speaker to listen to it attentively and try to find any verbal or non-verbal clues that the man recording is acting, but I have no one for the job. What I personally pick up from the non-verbal cues is that he is not acting, but subjective perception and opinions are not facts, so it doesn't swing the probability in any way. What can perhaps be described with a shred of objectiveness is his behavior. I'm gonna show you a sped-up version of the clip. How would you describe the behavior of the man in question by watching the whole scene in a few seconds? The word that comes to mind is tentativeness, perhaps clumsiness as well. It really does look like he is a bit scared and not in control of the situation, leaving and going back to the shed's entrance a few times. Besides, when he goes to the window, whatever or whoever is inside pushes the wooden pole with intent to hit the man, and there are visibly protruding nails in it. This is not a big break in our investigation, but it should be noted that if this were a hoax with both subjects in on it, it would be a pretty dangerous thing to do. The pole and the nails could have hit the man in the face. I cannot rule out the hoax completely, but the general hesitant and worried behavior of the man coupled with this small but dangerous event make the hoax hypothesis even less likely. A quick observation about the footage. It's quite good. I can't tell if he was using a handheld camera or a cell phone with a torch function activated, but I lean towards the second, and it must be a recent model with a good camera sensor. Footage is sharp and bright enough given the poor lighting conditions, and there's no sign of intentional degradation of the footage in post-production. An argument can be made about the fact that if this were a hoax meant to portray the intruder as something not human, there were high chances of the actor showing a hand or the face. This artillery hurts the hoax hypothesis, which can't be discounted completely, but is going to sit at a 4% unless new contrasting elements emerge. Alright, I was purposely vague with the misidentification hypothesis because the intruder could either be a regular person or an animal. There's no need to get into the minutiae of what objects are thrown and how. To assert that the intruder must have prehensile hands and not paws or hooves to grab things and throw them. So logic dictates that the only possibilities left, apart from the paranormal or anomalistic route, are a person seeking refuge or a primate with enough strength to throw those objects, perhaps a chimp or a bonobo. If this footage was recorded in Russia, I think we can agree that the only possibility is a primate escaped from a local zoo or circus, or testing facility of some kind. This would be an extraordinary circumstance, but definitely possible and plausible. It makes sense now to split the misidentification hypothesis into two, human and primate. All that's left to do is to look at the clues left by our intruder. Let's begin with the least obvious and noticeable feature. Around the middle part of the footage, the guy goes to another side of his property to retrieve a shovel. In two distinct moments within this very small journey, there are two sets of tracks visible on the snow. I must warn you that I am by no means a tracking expert, and I suspect tracks can be easily misidentified on fresh snow, so I will not assign too much value to these observations. What I notice about these tracks is that A, they are quite small, B, they seem to belong to a bipedal creature because they are very clear with no mix of front and back paws, C, they are very close, suggesting the creature has a small stride, and D, they suggest an elongated foot, similar to those of humans. In the second brief glimpse at the ground, we see the same tracks but in a more chaotic pattern, signaling that whatever left those tracks went on different directions. What's most important though is that we can compare them to a track of the guy recording. They're about half the length and 1/3 of the width, but I think they could be about twice the width if the guy wasn't wearing heavy snow boots. I'm going to show you the tracks of some of the most common animals living in cold climates: badger, cat, deer, dog, fox, hare, hedgehog, moose, mountain lion, rabbit, squirrel, and wild turkey. Well, none of them match the pattern seen in the two frames. They could belong to a child of the man recording, but the distinct lack of ridges that would be typical of a normal shoe or snow boot makes me doubt they are. Luckily, I was able to find a picture of chimpanzee tracks on the snow. They don't match either. The implication of these tracks, as you've probably already guessed, is that they could belong to a small humanoid creature, a proto-pygmy as serious cryptozoologists would refer to it. Like I said, my lack of specific knowledge on tracks identification means I cannot put too much stock into this, but I think this does slightly tilt our probabilities in favor of the unknown creature hypothesis versus all the others. Towards the end, when the man goes to the shed's window, albeit hard to notice on superficial viewing, there are about 3 photograms where a portion of the subject's face is visible. Here they are. It's clear that even without any enhancements, this eye is reflecting the light coming from the man's camera or torch. As I've often pointed out in my videos, we humans do not possess tapetum lucidum, and therefore we don't exhibit eye shine in the dark. This is even more noticeable in these 2 enhancements I've made. The thing is, all haplorhine primates, which includes us and the apes, are devoid of tapetum lucidum. This detail decreases the probability of this being an escaped chimp or bonobo, a human or a hoax. Well, I must admit I felt a bit outside of my element here, but it was mandatory for me to analyze the audio as well, and to do that I will use sonographs of the intruder's vocalizations and those of apes. An audio spectrogram or sonograph is a visual representation of the spectrum of frequencies over time, and it allows to compare sounds visually. I isolated 2 segments of the clip's audio, which I'll call Audio 1 and Audio 2. Here they are.
Hey!
In both audio files, we can visually compare the author's voice with the intruder's, and you can see that they look nothing alike. Of course, there is a certain degree of variability in human voices, but we can agree, I think, that these vocalizations don't sound human at all. As for apes, here are the vocalizations of a chimp. And here the vocalizations of a gorilla. When put next to an enlarged segment of the intruder's voice, the chimp and gorilla sonographs bear no resemblance at all. At this point, there are too many elements piling up that conflict with the ideas of this footage being a hoax or a misidentification of human or ape. The probabilities are overwhelmingly in favor of the unidentified humanoid creature hypothesis. To sum it all up, The unknown creature hiding in the barn video presented an unusual challenge. A piece of footage that doesn't show any potentially unknown creature in the frame, but that hides several secondary clues suggesting it: the harsh atmospheric conditions and nighttime setting, and the risks involved in invading someone's property at night negate the possibility that this is a prank. The footage quality, its length, the lack of anything of visual interest, the insecure and fearful behavior of the person recording, as well as the aggressive behavior of the intruder strongly suggest this is not a hoax. The capacity to throw objects indicates this is by no means a regular wild animal, but the sets of unidentifiable tracks, the eye shine, and the vocalizations incompatible with human beings or ape imply that this is an unknown humanoid creature. In conclusion, I consider the unknown creature hiding in the barn footage plausible and moderately compelling evidence of an undiscovered race of proto-pygmies inhabiting the region where the man recorded the clip. If you enjoyed this video and happen to share my interest in the possible existence of little people, I suggest this other video. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and see you in the next one.